This video demonstrates how to create a needle that will swivel back and forth on a gauge that will provide a readout of an external sensor or control. We'll begin by making a line to draw the needle, and we can basically do this by putting the pin down, moving 100 steps, moving back 100 steps, and then putting the pin up. Now, as long as we've created this code, we would be able to use it again if we turn it into a procedure. So I'm going to make a line procedure that makes a line of any length. And this line will use length as an input. And then if I just drag this code in, I'll have a reusable line procedure that I can use later. I can convert the line to a costume. Turtles have costumes, and if I go to the costume area, I can see currently this sprite doesn't have a costume, but we can create one by right-clicking on the line and using the pintrails commands to convert the line into a costume. The pintrails command takes the trails formed by the movement of the pin and turns them into costumes. So I'll give this sprite a name and call it needle, because we'll use it as a needle or indicator in our gauge. And I'll just call the costume that's a line. So once I've done that, I can clear the screen. If I move the turtle, we'll see that the line we have drawn still exists as a line on the screen, but that will go away when I click clear. And now I'll tell the turtle go back to 0, 0. Now that I have this line, I can make it point in any direction. So if I say point straight up, it will point in that direction. Or if I say turn 15 degrees, it will swivel around its center point in that way. The line can also be used if I add a second sprite to draw the half circle of the gauge. And I'll create a second sprite that we'll use as a stylus. I'm going to change the color of this to black. And since I like the pen size of my half circle that will form the gauge to be a little thicker, I'll give it a thickness of 2. And at this point, I can go into the costumes and edit this manually. Pick black, make a circle, and this circle will be attached to the top of the line that I created just by using the stick to command. So I'll stick it to the needle to attach it, and so I can keep track of what this sprite is intended to do. I'll name it stylus, and I want to be sure that now note that each sprite, each of the two sprites has its own script area. So if I issue commands in this sprite area, script area, it will change the stylus. If I issue commands in this script area, it will move the needle, and since the stylus is now attached to the needle, it will move along with it. However, if I want to issue a command to the stylus from the script area of the needle, I have to explicitly tell it to do that. So in a moment, I'm going to tell the stylus to put the pen down, and then I'm going to tell the needle, which is the default here, to turn 180 degrees. I'll move the needle so that it points straight left before I begin that movement, and then if I click this, it will draw the line. And now I have the half circle that'll be part of the gauge. Next, we'll add some tick marks. We'll do that by first pointing in 270 degrees. And then to add a tick mark, we'll basically tell the stylus to point towards the needle and then draw a short line. And we can encapsulate this as a tick mark procedure. So if we just drag this code block in here, now we'll have a tick mark procedure that we can use. So if we repeat 5 times, turn 30 degrees, and then make a tick mark, we'll get something like this. Now, at this stage, I'd also like a line at the bottom of the circle, the half circle, and to complete it. And I can do that by simply pointing straight right, and then I'll use the stamp command, which is found under the pen palette, to stamp a line. Now if I go back to 270 degrees, I can stamp a line over here. And at that point, I will have my gauge. So I now am at a point where, let's just point 0 to just see that I've still got my stylus attached. But I can hide the stylus because I don't need it any longer. So I'll go over here, and I will say hide, found in the looks command. So I'll drag that out, and I'm now in the script area of the stylus, so it's the stylus that will hide. I would like the needle to be a little less than the tick mark, just to make it a little bit clearer. So I can accomplish that by going to the needle script area and then going into looks and changing the size. Let's try 80% and see what that looks like. So it's still a little bit too big. Okay, now that's better. Maybe 78% will be almost to the tick mark, but not quite. Now I have a complete working gauge at this point, and I can move the stylus around to any position just by rotating the needle. But at this point, the needle, the gauge is just a line on the screen. So I can create a third sprite, and I'm just going to call this display or gauge, G-A-U-G-E. And I'm going to use the pentrails command to convert this costume into a gauge. So this is a half circle that with the tick marks, that is the display that the needle moves around in. Now I would like to stick the needle to the new gauge that we've made so that the two move together. And once I do that, I can move it anywhere on the screen. I still have the line that's drawn on the screen, but I can make that go away just by clearing the screen. And so now I have a gauge that I can move anywhere on the screen. That has a number of benefits, including the fact that if I want to make this smaller, I can use this same technique of telling the gauge to be, say, 75%, set the size to that, or whatever I might like, whatever meets the needs of whatever application I'm trying to develop. Another benefit of making the whole thing a costume that moves together is that now I can duplicate the entire thing, and I'll have a second gauge. Now this gauge is going to be having a little bit of trouble getting hold of it there. This gauge will be named gauge 2, but I can change that name to be whatever I want. If it is the speed, I can call it that, sound level, whatever I want, or just gauge 2. And now I can, once I've got one good gauge, I can have as many as I want and attach them through microblocks to peripherals such as sensors and potentiometers connected to microcontrollers. So that is how you can create a dashboard in Snap that can monitor external sensors and controls.